When we start working on our sphere, the first thing we want to do is draw a circle shape. If you have trouble drawing a circle, it's okay to find something that you can trace. And then you want to determine where your light source is going to be coming from. You can either draw that on the page or you can just have it in your mind. Then you want to know if your light source is coming down from one side, the opposite side is where you're going to find the shadow. You want to determine how big you want that shadow to be. You could draw it out and decide you don't like it and make it a little bigger. That's completely okay. And then you're going to want to shade that in with your darkest value colors. So we're going to push harder on the pencil in this area than on the other locations of your sphere. When you start working on your sphere, I personally like to work from the darker side towards the lighter side, keeping in mind that as you're working on this, where your light source is coming from, so which is going to be darkest on the opposite and lighter where that reflection is going to be from your light source. You always want to try and stay going the same direction as the object that you're coloring in. If you start going horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, it's not going to emphasize the shape of that sphere or roundness as much as you would like. So keep the directions going that way. A little trickier when you're working with a sphere versus something that has some straight lines. And you're gonna just keep working in darker, darker, and then lighter, lighter, lighter as you get towards that light. Sometimes I even put myself a little reference circle out there. If you ever get too dark, you have an eraser. You can go back in and you can erase out some of that pencil. Once you have enough graphite down on the paper, you can use your finger and you can blend that out to give it a smoother finish. You can also drag it into areas that you've left white that need to have a little bit of color to them or a little bit of darkness to them. Again, if you get a little too happy with it and you have too many dark areas, just use that eraser and go back and put your highlight point in. And then you're not going to want to forget, make sure to add back in that reflective light that's bouncing off the table and up into that shadow area on that bottom edge. It's going to be really close to the edge of your shape or your sphere. Your form in this case at this point in time. Again, just like you could always add more graphite, you can take your eraser and use it similarly. The harder you push with that eraser, the more of that graphite is going to pick back up off your paper and leave the white space, and the lighter and more gently you do it, the more gray it's going to leave behind. The other thing that I go back and do is my edge is a little dark. Really, if the light's shining on the side, I shouldn't have quite such a dark edge on my sphere, so I'm going to erase out a little bit of that pencil line to lighten it up. And then if I erase too much, I can go back in and add a little bit more shading. You can kind of fuss with it until you're ready.